You're 50 now?
Yeah.
Has your definition of love changed at all?
Love is just, it's one of these overloaded words, it's like freedom, it means anything you want. But what does love mean? Okay, I think, so what is love? Okay. There's romantic love, which we're all familiar with. Bollywood thrives on that, right? That's an attachment thing. It's like, I love you if you love me, let's go have kids together. Yes, it's a biological programming. It's there, it's important, it's good to have. That's not the real love.
Or you love like a fanboy, like how all of us love you.
Yeah, love is a feeling of unity. It's the attraction to yourself, actually. It is seeing yourself in something else and then kind of wanting to complete with it. So you can have a spiritual love, which is a love for oneness or God. You can have a love for your children because they're just part of you. You can have a love for your community because it's like you can have love for your ideas. So love is attraction in that sense. It's a positive attraction where you see the unity in the thing with you and you don't necessarily want anything out of it. I mean, that's a genuine love. The nice thing about love is if you think back in your life to when you were loved a lot, right? Like you were loved by your parents, great. Wonderful to be loved by your parents. At some point you took it for granted. Let's be honest. We all take our parents for granted. That's one of the things you learn as a parent yourself. You're like, oh my God, my parents put up with all of this. They were saints, right? You really only start valuing your parents when you have your own children. And then you realize what a one-way relationship, that love relationship. And it's fine. That's the way it's meant to be. Even your parents, they want what's best for you. They want you to love your kids, not to love them back at the same level. So one of the things you learn about love is, okay, when you're receiving love, you take it for granted, and it can even be a little too much. Like, for example, someone's attracted to you and you're not attracted to them. You're like, right? The overzealous fan, the girl or the guy who's like chasing you around. You're like, I don't really know. I'm not really into this. So that kind of love is the love that we think we want, but we don't really. I mean, yes, we want a little bit of it so we don't feel completely alone and it makes us feel safe, but it's not really the love that you want. Now think back to when you were in love. When you're in love with an idea, how you just work on it passionately. When you're in love with, let's say, God or spirituality, how you're just taken and you're swept away. Or when you're even in love with a person, you're in love with a woman or you're in love with a man, and all of a sudden everything is brighter and everyone's happier and you're just like walking on cloud nine. The feeling of being in love is greater than the feeling of being loved, is my point, okay? And you can be in love anytime you want. And how do you be in love? Well, it can't be forced, right? You can't buy love, you can't force love, but I will say a commonality is generally the less you are thinking about yourself, going back to what I was saying earlier, the more you're going to be able to love other people and other things. So, for example, the Buddhas, people will sometimes say, well, that's not a Buddha because that person's not loving enough. Well, that's not necessarily true. Love is not a requirement for being a Buddha, but it is an output of being a Buddha, because a Buddha is a person who has seen through the illusion of the separate self. And once they've seen through the illusion of the separate self, they're no longer self-obsessed, and therefore their love that was earlier turned inwards and became ego, love for the self, went outwards, and it still flows. As a very simple example, here's something this is a little embarrassing, but I'll be vulnerable. You like vulnerability, right? So I kind of sometimes have these near-death exercises, right? Where it's just like I imagine myself dying. And it's not something that I do deliberately. It just kind of happens. The moments when you go into bed, but before you fall asleep, are really interesting because your mind goes into a really hazy, almost psychedelic state. And I used to meditate a lot. And somewhere along the way, I just found that state between sleeping and waking to be really entertaining. And Entertaining, yeah, it's just entertaining. So next time you're falling asleep, just make just the smallest effort, because you make any real effort, you won't be able to sleep. But make the smallest effort just to be aware of your thoughts as you're falling asleep, as you're going to sleep. And your thoughts start going wackier and wackier and wackier, and they will just get wild. Like I'll have cats talking to me, and just like weird stuff going in and out. It's like dreams. You're basically lucid dreaming as you're falling asleep, and they're the craziest dreams. They don't make any sense. It's all nonsense.
You observe your own thoughts as you're about to fall asleep.
As I'm about to fall asleep. That's when your thoughts start going off the rails. You stop thinking about like, what am I doing tomorrow and how did work go today, and you just start having these wacky, random connections in your head. And it can be really fun to watch. So I was doing it just as an entertainment thing, exploratory thing.
What have you found out?
I'm not looking to find anything. So I think that's part of curiosity. You have to be a little careful, because if you go looking for something in particular, then you're only open to seeing that thing, and that's not how you find anything that's true. But it's just pure, mere curiosity. It's an entertaining state. That's a fine reason to do it, right? We do everything because we enjoy it at the end of the day. If you didn't, you wouldn't do it, right? Or you want to. Not necessarily enjoy it, but you do it because you want to. So I did it just because I wanted to. And once in a while, and I'm not trying to suggest anything, because again, if I suggest something, then it's not going to happen for you. But I'll basically feel like I'm dying. So I'm falling asleep, but I feel like I'm dying. It's like you can see things fading out, right? And as you fall asleep, the French, no, that's not. They call orgasm le petit mort, the little death, right? But it's also because your mind shuts down, right? So what's happening is your mind is shutting down from waking to sleeping state. And that's kind of a death transition. You can kind of feel like you're dying. And you can literally see thoughts going offline. Your mind goes offline. And as your mind goes offline, pay attention to what remains. Pay attention to what actually remains. And don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid. You're just falling asleep. But like I said, sometimes it feels like you're dying. And don't be afraid of death. Right? You just kind of go with it. It's just what's happening. And then as your mind disappears, as things disappear, as things fade out of existence, see what remains.
Okay. There's a version of something like this that I do. For me, the last two thoughts are always the girl I'm seeing and or the God I know, which is just universal energy.
Yeah, these are all manifestations of what you would call love. Right? This is you stop thinking about yourself, because thoughts are what drive the self-obsession. The self is ultimately just a thought. The self is a thought that I am a separate creature, I'm a body, I'm a mind. And if you truly were not thinking, like you're in deep meditation or you're on a psychedelic or you're a Buddha, you wouldn't have a thought of the self, and you'd just be aware. That's all there is.
I think the difference in your state of consciousness and mine is, one, you're much older and you've seen life. And by older, I mean brain older, not physical body older. You're a wiser human being. And I think over the years, you've just learned to observe and pick up data from everywhere. My early life experiences kind of catered me towards a deep sense of what we call bhakti in India, which is niswart prem, or unselfish love towards the divine. It's just an outcome of living in India in my eyes.
Yeah, no, what matters is truth, not who says what or where you lived or what book you read. What just matters is what's true. And that you can figure out for yourself, and you can figure it out just as well as me. And you probably have. Your core experience of your awareness, same as mine. Every emotion you felt, I felt. Every emotion I felt, you felt. We're human. No human experience is alien to us. So we can have all the same feelings and thoughts, just at different levels and different bases. I sort of reject this idea that I'm wiser or more advanced. I don't think that's true. No, if I was wise, I'd be a Buddha. I'm not. So it's like, two ants debating, like, who's smarter, and there's like a human walking around over there, right?
Hey, if you enjoyed this clip from the Ranveer Show, we've uploaded a ton of other clips related to a ton of other topics. So explore the channel, because there's something for everyone.